Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Coffee and Football, presented by John Donovan and the Longhorn Wealth Management Group. I'm your host, Blake Monroe, where I'm joined each and every morning by Bobby Burton and Jerry Hamilton. Guys, tell us where you're checking in from, what you're drinking. Get your questions in. We'll get to those here in just a little bit. Also got to say thank you. We hit 49,000 subscribers this morning. That is awesome. We can't thank you enough for your continued support. That is just so cool. But let's get into it, guys. We got a lot to talk about. Recruiting. Let's just start there. Jerry, I'm going to just let you take it away.
Well, it's official visit time for Texas. It starts this weekend with 6 scheduled official visitors. We'll have all that information here and on TexasFootball.com throughout the week. But big month for Steve Sarkisian and this staff starts truly this week. A lot of schools began the official visit process last weekend. Obviously, the Corey Moore, Riley Pettijohn were at Ohio State. There was a couple of guys at Georgia. There was a number of guys at LSU of Texas targets: Brandon Brown, Zion Williams, Jamie French, Khalil Lockett. USC had a number of visitors. Some teams like Georgia hits that 31st, June 2nd, that first weekend with their big weekends. Texas, obviously, with Sark, who plays the long game, later game. There, Florida had a number of guys on campus that Texas is targeting, Myron Charles being one of those. So Texas targets were out and about around the country making official visits this past weekend. Texas begins their official visits this weekend with a solid group headlined by guys such as Josiah Sharma, D lineman out of Folsom, Dorian Brew, Caleb Chester, defensive backs, obviously Michael Terry, the athlete out of San Antonio, Alamo Heights, Caleb Edwards, a tight end out of El Dorado, El Dorado Hills in California. So Texas has 6 official visitors coming in this weekend. And this is a start of it for Steve Sarkisian's staff, 44, 45, up to 46, 47 official visitors in the month of June. Obviously, a number of those guys, that includes commitments, but some huge weekends coming up for Sark. This one, 6 guys. The following 2 weekends, 39 or 40. So June 14th through 16th, 21st through 23rd. But it's here for Texas fans. This is what you've been waiting on. Following the class of 2025, 45 official visitors. I believe Texas will have 21 commitments, Bobby, by the start of August, I would think, because these kids are going to make a lot of decisions coming up in July.
Jerry, not only that, but we're coming off a weekend where the Longhorns offered 15 new prospects. 10 of them from the class of 2026, 4 from the class of 2027, and then actually another one in class of 2025, Nathan Tillman out of Mansfield, a defensive back. Tell folks about him and what his situation is right now in recruiting, because that's a guy that actually may end up visiting this coming month based on this offer coming out of Blake Gideon and Steve Sarkisian on Saturday morning.
Yeah, Nathan Tillman, safety out of Mansfield, Timberview, same high school. Obviously, Andre Kojo came out of, and in that 25 class, Dylan Battle, defensive lineman who Texas took a couple looks at. There's also another DB at that school, Elijah Pratt, who has since transferred to IMG. He's also committed to SMU, where Nathan Tillman is committed right now. But Nathan Tillman, a guy that, when I went through Mansfield, Timberview last year, to see Dylan Battle for an athletic period, coaching staff really mentioned Nathan Tillman as a guy who was ascending coming on for them in that class, and that's continued now. Ran what, Bobby, 10.71 at 185 pounds this spring. So he is ascending athletically on the field. He's kind of a guy that sees the ball, makes plays on the ball. He has that feel, that knack for it. He sees it from the safety position. But we'll see what happens there. Texas is expected to get an official visit. He's scheduled to go to Baylor this weekend. We'll see if there's a change there. But Nathan Tillman is expected to visit Texas at some point here. But yeah, a ton of offers, a lot of offers over the weekend, a lot of 26 offers, which tells you, guys, it's kind of what we've been talking about. The talent Texas is able to get on campus now is at a higher end level than in the first couple of years of the Sarkisian era. Obviously 5-7, 8-5. Last year, the win over Bama, getting to the college football playoff, just really accelerated that process. So that's a double-digit offers in the 26 class is a lot. The receiver from Mansfield, Zion, as you said, had a tremendous day. State high jump champion, high jump 6'8". He'll probably be a 10-7 guy at 6'3", 190 pounds as he moves along in his high school career. had 25 catches for 409 yards as a sophomore. Jordan Clay out of San Antonio, I was told was the best route runner there, was tremendous running and route running. Just his ability to decelerate at that age at 6'2", 190 really stands out. He's got some strength and power in that ability as well at the wide receiver position. But talented wide receiver group, extremely talented offensive line group. A number of offers went out in 26 and 27 on the offensive line, and obviously everybody's talking about 26 quarterbacks, Diabell, Troy Hoon. I think Diabell's the top guy, and I think he'll make a decision probably mid to late June. He's got FSU coming up June 9th, Ohio State the 11th, and LSU the 12th, 13th. What's interesting to me on Florida State is they were the most recent program to offer, and he immediately set up a visit. So we'll see if that ends up being the competition at the end of the day. Interesting that they offered late, and they got him on. They're getting him on campus this next weekend on Sunday to throw in front of Mike Norvell for camp and that staff. But Diabell, Troy Hoon will go on with the visit process. Look, I mean, I think Steve Sarkisian might have told Troy Hoon, we take 2 and 26. That's not happening. That's more just recruiting, right? I mean, that's just more part of the recruiting process. Neither one of those guys would be part of a two-man class at quarterback, from what I was told. So I think Diabell, I think there's some confidence in Austin with Diabell. We'll see what happens. Does FSU close that gap here coming up next weekend? We'll see what happens. A lot of people have been talking about Ohio State making a move with DeCorian Moore. Look, everybody's going to give DeCorian Moore their best shot. I mean, and we've said this before, this is really going to come down to where DeCorian wants to be. Obviously, his family wants him in Austin. I still think Texas will be tough to beat at the end of the day. But yes, everybody is going to take mighty swings at DeCorian Moore this month. If they don't, they're bad at their job.
There's the DeCorian Moore pictures. There's also some of Riley Pettijohn, the linebacker. There we go. Blake put those up for us. Ohio State still making do with the photo ops. I'm actually more interested in what happened over at LSU, Jerry, to be honest with you. Brandon Brown, I don't know that Riley Pettijohn is going to be pushing on either. Texas is going to be too worried about Riley Pettijohn and DeCorian Moore, but Brandon Brown's a guy that is committed and now is taking visits, and apparently LSU seems to have a lot of confidence coming out of this weekend with Brandon Brown, the defensive lineman out of O'Galley, Florida.
Yeah, I mean, look, Brandon Brown, when I was there, I've been saying this on TexasFootball.com, that Texas LSU is where this battle is going to come from at the end of the day. Now, it's curious. It's interesting. He's at Tennessee this weekend, then Texas the 14th through 16th. But I was told he's scratching USC for Miami visit June 21st through 23rd. But I still expect it to come down to LSU and Texas. Look, the long-standing relationship with Bo Davis. Bo Davis was one of the first guys that got on Brandon Brown when Bo was at Texas over at O'Galley in Melbourne, has been on him ever since and has that really strong relationship. So LSU is definitely banking on that relationship and that resume for development with Brandon Brown. And we'll see what happens here. LSU is confident. And let's see what happens. LSU is going to take a big defensive line class. I mean, Texas may take 4, LSU might take 5 or 6 from what I've heard. So we'll see. We'll see what happens there. But it's been headed to a LSU versus Texas battle for a while, barring the unforeseen. A&M really tried to get in there, and we'll see what happens with it at the end of the day. I expect him to go on with the official visit process. I think that's the one thing that would surprise me after visiting O'Galley in May is I think there was kind of a thought is go through. You committed once early, because USC tried to get him to flip, which that wasn't going to happen. But go through this visit process, make a final decision. And I don't think that's changed.
Interesting. All right. Hey, we got some other news coming up. Longhorns got back together as a team yesterday. They were reported back. They actually started workouts for summer today. I think they started this morning. But something happened yesterday afternoon that was quite fun. Kicker Bert Auburn received a scholarship in front of his teammates yesterday. The Longhorn kicker, 3-year starter, by the way, for the Longhorns, now officially on scholarship for Texas. That's a long time coming for a young man that led the Longhorns in scoring. I think he led the country in scoring last year, Jerry, with all those field goals. Good player, good guy. Maybe the most recognizable guy. Here's the video that we played a little bit last night in the live stream. Here's Steve Sarkisian.
Scholarship guys go on all summer long. So when we can reward those guys, man, there's nothing better. For Auburn, you're on scholarship.
Guys get excited, man. This is good stuff here. Good stuff. Still got the hair, Jerry.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if we can match the hair.
Well, you said he's the most recognizable player on the Texas team. And some people say, whoa, Quinn and Arch. But anytime, if you're just like walking around the campus, around a camp or something, when Bird Auburn walks, you instantly know. If somebody else wears a cap or you don't see him at the right angle, Bird Auburn, you instantly know who that is.
Quinn's on the cover of a national video game. And I guarantee you people would recognize Bert Auburn walking across campus more easily.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the way it is. There's nothing wrong with Quinn, Arch, or anybody else for that matter. It's just the hair leads, I guess, is the best way to go. But to that point, congratulations to him. Well deserved. As was a couple of things that happened off the field or off of the football team today or this weekend. Texas softball now in the national semifinals. They play Stanford again tonight at 7:00. Texas has beaten Stanford once, 4-0 on Friday. Then they came back and beat Florida, ruled them 10-0 on Saturday. The women's rowing team is national champion. Light the tower for them. They beat out Stanford. Stanford finished second. Tell you what, this whole idea coming out, we got a friend of ours now updating the Directors' Cup update with baseball concluded. Texas now trails Stanford by 123 with softball, women's track and field. Really need to go beat Stanford tonight to assure us of at least 90 points as it relates to the Directors' Cup.
What's interesting about the softball, so on the other side of the bracket, Oklahoma gets Florida. Okay, so they're playing at noon. And if Florida happens to beat Oklahoma, they play again at like 2:30 or 3, probably 3. Texas plays Stanford at 7. Should Stanford beat Texas, they turn around and play right after that at 9:30. So you're talking about, and that may be East Coast times, but you're talking about that could be a long day of softball if Stanford upsets Texas, if they do. If not, I mean, look, Texas and Oklahoma are the favorites. They've been the 1-2, and we've talked about it before. Unless they both got upset, the only chance that where they were going to play again would be for the national championship, which would be a 3-game best of 3. So we'll see. That would be a heck of a way to leave the Big 12 for the Texas Longhorns, as Texas and Oklahoma play for the national championship at softball, especially with Oklahoma's recent dominance of the sport.
Yeah, but Brett Yormark says Big 12's never been more relevant. So, whatever. Hey, I want to say thank you to our sponsor. As you guys know, each and every Monday, our Coffee and Football episode brought to you by our sponsor, John Donovan, president of Longhorn Wealth Management Group. As a proud UT alum, John has served more than 15 years as a Texas Exes board member while focusing his firm on serving his fellow UT alums and all UT employees. John is a certified financial planner who has spent more than 30 years providing investment, retirement, insurance, and estate planning services and solutions to Longhorn families and friends across the nation. So to receive a free 90-minute consultation to explore how Longhorn Wealth can help you and your family secure your own financial future, simply call the Longhorn Wealth team at 972-707-4900 or schedule an appointment online at www.longhornwealth.net. Finally, let's all cheer on our UT women's softball team as they face Stanford tonight in the semifinals of the College World Series. Not only will tonight's win put UT into playing for the national championship, but beating Stanford head-to-head will likely secure the Directors' Cup for UT for the 3rd time in the past 4 years. John wants to wish them well, says hook 'em. Again, www.longhornwealth.net. Check it out.
John for sponsoring each and every Monday right here on Coffee and Football. And Osmosis Jones says Texas would get 90 points for winning tonight or winning the softball championship game.
Well, 100 for winning the national title, but being a runner-up, you get at least 90. Is the scoring. We're talking about all this good stuff. Blake, I gotta set you up because you wrote something this morning on TexasFootball.com about the baseball situation right now. David Pierce did not go out the way that the Longhorns necessarily wanted to go out after losing on Saturday night 4-2 in 11 innings to top seeded A&M. The Longhorns laid an egg on Sunday and lost 10-2. Pitching problems reared its ugly head on Sunday, like it has much of this year. There are some people that are calling for David Pierce's job right now, and think that some people even think he's already gone potentially. We cannot report that by any Henry James. Has David Pierce been fired yet? We can't report any of that. Blake, you've been trying to do some reporting on this, have some contacts in baseball because you've been doing it a long time. What do you hear late on David Pierce and his situation with the University of Texas?
Yeah, so right after the game yesterday, I reached out to a few people to kind of get a pulse on where things stand, what they thought. Again, none of this is official, like Bobby said, not ready to say one thing or another. But the people that I spoke to, they did believe that, and this is what I posted on TexasFootball.com, is some hard conversations are going to be had. And, Texas probably going to explore some other avenues and kind of just get the pulse on things, see where things stand. So to be determined officially, but it wouldn't surprise me. I mean, obviously it was a roller coaster of a season, as any Texas baseball fan knows, full of ups and downs and a lot of questions with very, very few answers. So we'll see what happens, but head over to OnTexasFootball.com. We'll continue to bring you the latest there as it happens and as we hear.
Blake, why do you think David Pierce is in the situation he's in?
I think it's a number of things, and I don't want to get into too many specifics, but obviously results are going to be what matters quite a bit. And Texas just hasn't had them the way that Texas fans are accustomed to. Yes, the College World Series trips are there, but there's also been a lot of roster mismanagement. We've seen assistant coaches come and go. And I mean, it even happened this year. So I don't know. I mean, it's a tough situation because I can see both sides of the coin, Bobby. He's obviously has done a lot of good, but like I said, there's been a lot of question marks too that we don't really have the answers on. So I'm just glad I'm not Chris Del Conte. I'll just say that.
What happened with the pitching situation this year? That's the one that seems to have a lot of people riled up, and potentially rightfully so. He wanted to be his own pitching coach this year, and pitching is what seemed to fail the Longhorns more than anything.
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, we talk about up and down. I mean, yeah, you can say the offense is up, down, mostly up. But pitching was just a roller coaster of a ride. I mean, you look at LBJ, a guy that was, preseason All-American, people talking about, he could be one of the top 3 pitchers in the nation. I mean, he went from the Friday night starter to not being a weekend starter and then slowly working his way back. So you have that situation. You have, just nobody really stepping up besides Ace Whitehead. And his mom came out and said it last night, so I can officially say it. He played hurt the majority of the season. The kid wasn't at 100%. Is going to have surgery in the coming weeks. And he was the lone bright spot. So when your lone bright spot is the guy that's hurt and playing through the pain with a serious, medical situation going on, there's obviously problems. And that's never a good thing. But, yeah, I mean, you couldn't find anybody reliable outside of Whitehead, who, again, was hurt. And at a program like Texas, and I know Jerry will say this all the time, in the day of the portal, that should never happen.
I'll say this. I mean, if you just look at reflect on David Pierce's 8 seasons at Texas, one was COVID, so take out 2020, right? But he's only won 50 games one time. And since 2021, the 50-win season, 47 wins, 42 wins, 36 wins. It's just not going in the right direction at the end of the day. That is not the trend line you want to be on. Is if the feeling goes, okay, you may have peaked in 2021 based on what we've seen after that, That's not the trend line you want to be on. Only won 58.58% of his games, 59% of his conference games at Texas. That is so. Bobby, you talked about this year while they finished third in conference, they won 9 series, but they didn't have enough sweeps to win a conference title either this year. So I just think when you reflect back, if you look at it from 2021, which is 50-17, you went to 47 wins, you went to 42 wins, you went to 36 wins. That's just not the trend line you want to be on.
I will add this too. They're going into a conference that put 11 teams into the NCAA playoffs.
Yeah.
So it's not like the road gets easier next year for David Pierce.
No.
So could be time for a fresh start for Chris Del Conte and the Texas Athletic Department at Dish Falk. But as of right now, we do not know anything firm. And will not report so, but it is a situation I think everyone in Texas media is obviously following, because baseball, having gone to Texas, guys, baseball holds a special place for a lot of people at Texas. It's what they do in their Friday afternoons when they want to get out of the classroom and go hang out down the right field line and to soak up some rays and maybe sneak in a beer or something, So I think baseball at Texas with Cliff Gustafson, obviously, followed by Augie Garrido. A lot of winning going on there, guys, and accustomed to it at a very, very high level too.
Let's just the D1 baseball poll, okay, headed into conference or regional tournaments. Just think about this from an SEC's perspective. Tennessee 1, Kentucky 2, Clemson 3, which watch out for that coach. A&M 4. Arkansas 5, Oklahoma 8, by the way. So, your rival. Georgia 10. I mean, that is then Mississippi State at 17. LSU down to 24, obviously, in that poll. But just think about the top of the poll in the SEC where you're headed. It's interesting that Clemson's ranked third. All right, let's go.
He's got some questions. And yes, this is a
Clemson is one of the coaches potentially, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Clemson, Tennessee. I heard the guy from Dallas Baptist, who's created a good program there, is a possibility as well.
I don't think he would go anywhere, but I think the first two you mentioned, they would definitely be my first 2 calls right off the bat. I mean, there's no doubt about it, especially Tennessee. I think that should be priority number 1. So I don't know. We'll see what happens, guys.
It's my understanding he was an assistant at TCU
when Del Conte
was at TCU, by the way.
Correct.
That doesn't matter at all. That doesn't matter at all.
They hired, Texas hired another.
Oh, we need to talk about that.
Yeah, another women's coach yesterday, Laura Ianello, the women's golf coach at Arizona, won the national championship in 2018. She will replace Ryan Murphy as the University of Texas women's golf coach. She is coming in and will be named Texas golf coach sometime this week. I spoke to a person out in Arizona that's actually related to her. So she is definitely on her way to the University of Texas.
Okay, guys. Well, it's time for questions, and we got plenty of them. And you got plenty of time to get your questions in, so please do so. And let's get back to some football talk here. Let's start with this one from Robert Gray. We'll talk a little recruiting since that's been a hot topic. He says, Jerry, are there any players that are committed elsewhere that you think Texas could possibly flip?
Oh, I mean, look, the USC linebacker commit, Texas would love to flip. He comes in June 14th for an official visit. Texas would love to flip him, but we'll see what happens there. The corner from Buford, Georgia, Devin Williams is committed to Auburn. He's scheduled to come in the 21st through 23rd. So we'll see what happens there. Those are to me the main guys. I'm just thinking about it right now. A lot of uncommitted guys right now. Are some guys silently committed somewhere else? Texas has 2 or 3, right? I mean, so yes, there's some guys that are silently committed somewhere else. But as far as public commitments, we'll see on that one.
Maybe Nathan Tillman, Jerry, from Mansfield.
Yeah, when he schedules that official visit, it'll become real.
And our next question, guys, Jim, once again for you from Vivek B. He said, of the 6 officials this weekend, who's most likely to commit? I'll ask you this. Who do you feel like could be a good shot for Texas to land eventually?
Yeah, I think the 2 DBs are interesting. Not that Dorian Brew would commit this weekend, but Caleb Chester, A&M's got 4 DBs in their class right now. So let's see what happens with Caleb Chester this week. Texas likes Caleb Chester quite a bit. They always have at corner. I think they like him more in the spring here. So he's one. Caleb Edwards, probably not. He's got a bunch of visits scheduled. Josiah Sharma, that would be a surprise if he shut it down and committed to Texas this week with Alabama on June 21st through 23rd, is with that longstanding relationship with Kalen DeBoer. So, I would think watch the DB position a little bit this weekend. That would be if I had to make a bet, that would be it.
And our next question, fellas, from March Mania, he says, how big of a deal is the West Coast connections with Khalif Lockett? His dad mentioned Chris Jackson and Sark in that context.
Well, his father's from LA originally, so he's a SoCal guy. The mom is from Mississippi and Louisiana, so LSU, right? So that's kind of, if people think that have followed this, if they think back a few months when I first started talking about Lockett after I stopped by Saxe High, I mentioned USC, I mentioned LSU for those various reasons. And those reasons remain. But I do think, I think that helps Texas a little bit, obviously. But we'll see what happens. Again, with wide receiver recruiting, it's what's going to be so interesting is I know the talk is, 3 5-star guys. But if 2 of those guys behind the scenes look like they're absolutely headed for Texas, does that change something with a third? I mean, that's going to be the question there is, does that change something there? Could somebody come with a massive NIL offer that you just wouldn't match? Because that's possible too. Those who follow recruiting, whether it be portal or high school, know this happens. So that'll be interesting to follow. But Lockett his father's a SoCal guy, mom is Louisiana, Mississippi. So that is a big part of why I think you see the USC and the LSU.
And then, where did it go? Here we go. Look, we're going to talk quarterback recruiting for a minute. We got a couple of different questions about 26 and 27. Corey J, we'll start with 27, says, what's your thoughts on Brady Edmonds and Peyton Houston? Are those the 2 quarterbacks that Texas will go after in the 2027 class?
What we heard, Brady Edmonds had a tremendous day Saturday, followed up by going to Tennessee. He trains with Danny Hernandez, same guy, person that trains Troy Hune, had Malik Murphy. So a guy that Sark has long-standing connection with. I think Brady Edmonds is really coming up, though, with all the colleges around the country. So I definitely think he's going to be a guy. Peyton Houston, the tape is impressive with Peyton Houston. He's undersized like KJ Lacey, right? But what I heard on Peyton Houston was just the moxie, that kind of gamesmanship, whether that be at quarterback, that ability to kind of be a gamesmanship leader with other guys. That's all the things, along with the way he throws the football and moves his feet around the football field, were very impressive. So I think those 2 guys, definitely leaders in the clubhouse. We'll see if anybody else emerges at these camps coming up the rest of the summer that Texas will put an offer out on. Bobby, I don't know about you, but 227 quarterbacks being offered this early by Sark says a lot for their talent level.
Yeah, and I think it's a couple different things here. And this was interesting. Over the weekend, I was asked, how do they figure out somebody that's just 15 years old, 14 years old, that you want to offer that guy a scholarship to be the quarterback at the University of Texas and play in front of 100,000 people?
Yeah.
That is and I thought about it. I'm like, I've been numb to that kind of question for 20 years because it's been happening to me over and over. But I tried to take a step back and think about it. And my response is, that's why you have them on campus. That's why you bring them in to throw for you. Are those throws easy to them? Is it second nature? It doesn't matter who's out there watching him. And Sark, look, we can say we want. He's got as good a background or reputation as it relates to quarterbacks as anybody in the business. And so if he feels comfortable with that decision, I don't think you see Sark out there offering 8th graders. I'll put it that way. But when you see a guy come in 6'5", 195 pounds and has a rifle, and you like his demeanor, whether he's in 10th grade or 12th grade, it doesn't matter. And I think that that's what happened with Brady Edmonds. I think they've been around Peyton Houston quite a bit. I don't know what number of times this is for him visiting Texas, but he's been around a long time, so they know about him. I just think that when you offer a quarterback that young to be the leader of a team and a program with the gravitas of the University of Texas, you have to be pretty sure that that guy can handle the slings and arrows, you know, and you get him on campus. What better, you know, the coach isn't, Sark's not going to get a better venue, a better opportunity to make that sort of decision, if it can be made, than when they're on campus. So I feel good about Sark and quarterback. I don't really have that big of a concern, whether it's and this doesn't just include 2027, it's 2026, whether it's Diabella, Troy Hune, or whoever. I mean, look, Trey Owens, people were questioning that one last year at this time, Jerry. Were they not? A lot of people were questioning Trey Owens. After the spring game, are you questioning Trey Owens still? No, you're not.
Well, a lot of people are questioning KJ Lacey right now because of his size.
Right, exactly. So I just want to put this out there. The one position I don't think we really need to worry about, as far we need to follow it because it obviously is a big name player, et cetera. But worrying about it is a different story. I think that if Sark feels like a sophomore needs to be offered, then he's going to offer a sophomore at quarterback.
And I'll say this too: AJ Milwee, when he was out on the road in May, he went and stopped by and looked at those guys too. So right, they've done their due diligence before the camp on a lot of these kids as well. AJ Milwee stops by Huntington Beach, has a conversation, probably stops by and talks with Danny Hernandez, who trains him. Has a conversation about the demeanor and all the things Bobby was talking about. Same at Evangel. You go into Evangel, you're going to sit down in that coach's office. You might even ask the guidance counselor, the trainer, people that are around that kid about him. I mean, if you're doing your job in recruiting, that is really what goes on. I mean, look, I'll tell you a crazy recruiting story here. I'm not going to name the player, but years ago, there was a coach, and I happened to be at the school on the same day, a coach that came to the school. The head coach was waiting on him to come to the office. He's like, this guy was here 30 minutes ago. He went to principal, guidance counselor, trainer, English teacher. He went to see like 4 or 5 other people before he ever went to talk to the head coach. And I that always stuck with me because this guy was really good at what he did as a recruiter. Got to know him years later, but he was so detail oriented in knowing every single thing he could about the kid, because the coach sees him only so much of the time. The principal, the guidance counselor, the trainer, they may notice things about the kid, had conversations with the kid, but the coach actually hasn't. So it's just doing your due diligence. And Texas doesn't offer 2027 quarterbacks without AJ Milwee and Sark doing due diligence.
Before we talk about the 2026 quarterbacks, Jerry, can you tell folks out there about Omaha Steaks?
Well, yes, absolutely I can. I mean, I can't tell you about eating them because they were all gone last week. I actually had the burger over the weekend, and that was tremendous as well. But the steaks were gone. Chicken was long gone. But with Father's Day right around the corner, what do you give the man who has everything? Easy. You give him an experience he'll never forget. You give him Omaha Steaks, because a world-class dad deserves a world-class steak. Is there any doubt about that? The Father's Day experts at Omaha Steaks have made it easy to put a smile on the big guy's face this summer with hand-selected gift packages starting at just $89. Just go to omahasteaks.com and use promo code ONTEXAS, all caps, at checkout for an additional discount when you shop gourmet gift packages for Father's Day. With Omaha Steaks, the possibilities are endless. Endless flavor, Blake and I agree. Endless variety, Blake and I agree. Endless value. Truly, they have perfected more than steak, and your dad is guaranteed to love every bite. Pick from a premium proteins like juicy pork chops, air-chilled chicken, and beefy burgers. The burger was tremendous. Go to omahasteaks.com and use promo code ONTEXAS, all caps, to get an exclusive savings.
I got to say, I sent some to my dad using that discount code. You get $10 off, or at least it was $10 off my order using the promo code on Texas. My dad called me and said, "Hey, what did I do to deserve this?" And I said, "Father's Day." And he goes, "It's not Father's Day yet." So I'm ahead of the game. I'm bonus 2 weeks ahead. Go to Omaha Steaks. That's not the first time I've done that for my dad with Omaha Steaks. They really do a nice job. If you're looking for a easy Father's Day gift to buy online and get it sent to them, again, on Texas is the promo code.
Okay, guys, as I said, we do have a 2026 quarterback question. And Jerry, I hope you're ready to go into detail here. As Vivek B says, can you break down the skills of Troy versus Dia? Who do you think is more elite?
Ooh, they're both going to be ranked top 50 kids in the country when all is said and done. In my opinion, top 75 for sure. I think Troy is very comfortable in the pocket. Right, he's trained with Danny Hernandez for a while now. Last year was his first year starting on varsity. I think he's got he's really good feet in the pocket. He's really been coached up in the pocket well. Throws a deep ball really well. I think Dia is more of a maybe playmaker outside the pocket. When things start to break down, especially with that speed he plays against in South Florida, and it does break down there, you have to show some escapability, not so much the run, but to keep the play alive. I think he throws exceptionally well on the run after seeing him in person, especially going right, which can be tougher for some right-handed quarterbacks. So it's actually kind of the opposite. It's easier going left to get those shoulders square and throw the football versus right. You can drift a little bit. He throws the ball really well going right on the move. I really like that about him when I was at American Heritage in May. But I think those guys, I mean, Diabell comes from the pro background, right? His father is a longtime NBA player. He's been around. He's kind of a professional mindset at a young age because of that. Obviously, his father playing 12 years in the NBA, been around it growing up. His mom was a talented soccer player, all-conference soccer player at FIU. So he's kind of grown up in the arena. Also, look, I think Rod Babers and we talk about athletic instincts a lot. I think Diabell's got that. He was obviously a very good basketball player before he made a transition to football, averaged 21 a game as a freshman on varsity basketball at American Heritage, 5 rebounds, 5 assists. So he's got those athletic instincts. And I think that really impresses Steve Sarkisian, who, what is he, Bobby? He's kind of that West Coast offense, Bill Walsh disciple. Bill Walsh was the first guy to kind of coin athletic instincts at the quarterback position.
Yeah, we had Rod Babers on last night. We were talking about the difference between Bell and Hune. Bell is not necessarily a first read quarterback, get it out quick type of guy. He's going to be a guy that has to bring that along a little bit more. But I will add this: Diabell's the one that can ad lib a little bit, whereas Troy Hune's going to keep you on schedule. So Bell does have a little bit more of that athleticism if the first read is not there. That's essentially what it is. And Hune may be further along in his development than Bell.
I agree, 100%.
And so you look at it that way. They really are two different quarterback types, and it may just be one that Sark feels most comfortable with at this point, going after. And we'll see.
All right, we have a super chat, fellas, from Osas the Destroyer. Thank you. He says, who's the best defensive back in this class in y'all's opinion?
Devin Sanchez at corner in Texas is a really, really talented guy. Obviously, he still picks up the calls, picks up the phone when Sark calls. We'll see if it goes anywhere. He's remained in contact, but nothing's really happened that matters for Texas in that. But, Sark and those guys will recruit through the whistle. You saw it with Kelvin Banks, Cam Williams, some guys in 22. You've seen that continue. I like Cade Phillips a lot at Hightower. He's not even close to filling out. And I do think safety long-term for him, although Corey Raymond, they're telling him corner as a possibility. And I do think Texas, LSU, probably the top two on that. At the end of the day, we'll see. We'll see. He visits A&M, LSU, and Texas coming up here. But Cade Phillips, 6'2", 180, 80-inch wingspan, 10-inch plus inch hands, long jump 24/7 twice last year as a junior, and he shows the catch radius, the playmaking ability on both sides of the ball, making plays on the ball. He plays wide receiver. I like that he plays wide receiver. He tracks a football over the shoulder. I like guys that play defensive back and wide receiver. I know a lot of people say a lot of guys do. Well, that's not always the case. There's a lot of guys that they train to be a corner for majority of their life. I like when a guy who is a defensive back and he's gonna kind of transition where he's gonna be long term, which may be safety with Phillips, that play wide receiver as well. Those ball tracking skills, I think, are that you build up over time, and you're seeing it from the wide receiver point of view. You're seeing it from the defensive back point of view. I think are invaluable for guys. I'm a big Cade Phillips fan long term.
Okay, then our next question, fellas, is going to come from, actually, let's go over to team questions for a little bit. We need to talk that off. Moses Jones says, with summer workouts starting, what position group or players do you think can make the biggest leap?
I got to be honest. I think that there's two of them here that need to be talked about. One is the wide receiver group becoming more cohesive with the quarterbacks.
Yeah.
So that's one that I'm looking for, because remember, this is only the second semester on campus for three of them, and the first semester on campus for one of them, with Silas Bolden just getting to town. And then you had, Matthew Golden and Isaiah Bond joining the team. So 2 and 1, I guess. So getting a cohesive group together there is one. And then it's the interior of the defensive line for me. They've got 3 new faces, essentially 2 from this spring portal scenario, along with Tia Savea, Vernon Broughton. Where's he at in this situation? Alfred Collins. What's Jeray Bledsoe done in the last month? Has he moved up? What about Sadir Mitchell? Has he become a little bit more of an adult, so to speak, or Aaron Bryant? By the way, I forgot to mention this the other day. Steve Sarkisian was really high on Aaron Bryant coming out of spring ball. He spoke a little bit about him at spring media day, saying, hey, I think we're going to be able to rely on him a little bit this year. So keep that guy in mind too. But those are the 2 positions. Then I think you have also linebacker. Like, how are they going to play together? That's my biggest question. It's not it's not who they are individually, David Benda and Anthony Hill. It's how they're going to play together. That is interesting to me. So
I would say this too. It's with D-line, speaking of Aaron Bryant, talking about Sadir Mitchell, look, offensive line and interior defensive line are still remain and always will remain the positions that need development time. I mean, I know everybody gets excited chasing 5-star prospects, but on the D line, but look, that's still a developmental position. There are very few of those guys who actually come in and look like a first rounder in year 1. It's just rare. I mean, these guys need development on the interior over time. And I think sometimes because of where we're at in recruiting nowadays, where the recruiting industries become as a business, right? And the star rankings, and in the portal, the instant gratification at all positions is even more so than it's ever been. But on the offensive line and on the interior defensive line, you still have to develop these guys over time. If you get in a rush with these guys, you're gonna miss some opportunities to have really good players. You just have to balance your rooms and your roster the correct way.
Then Cody Hook wants to know, realistically, what do you think our defensive line ceiling is this year?
Edge, like, are you talking about interior defensive line only or edge as well? Because I think edge has a very, very high ceiling this year. You got another year older of Ethan Burke, who showed some signs last year of being a breakout player. Barron Sorrell, 4th-year senior, continues to get better. Then you add Trey Moore, Colin Simmons, Colton Vosick. You're interested to see what Colin Simmons can even do as a true freshman. Look, I think the edge position right now is brimming a little bit. It's bubbling, right? Like what's it going to end up looking like at the end of the year or during the year? It's probably one of the more exciting things happening in Texas football. The interior, I I feel like they're trying to replace two great players with the sum of the parts. You know what I mean? Without another first or second round. There's not a first or second round pick in there unless somebody like Alex January or Sadir Mitchell end up being there 2 years from now or 3 years from now, right? There's just not that level prospect, even with the older guys that they took. So I think they're trying to get by with experience, albeit good experience. None of these guys are bad football players by any stretch. The point being, that looks a little bit more like an average defensive line in the SEC or anywhere else, as opposed to the edges, which I think have to have a chance to be elite. I'll put it that way. Blake, you're muted, bud.
Sorry about that. Been a while since I've done that. Kelly Horns Up says, how are our edges against the run? I can see Michigan and other teams running at our edges to slow our pass rush.
I think Barron Sorrell is really good against the run. So the question would be more about Ethan Burke, Trey Moore, those kind of guys. Justice Finkley, decent against the run as well. So I don't worry about Michigan running at the edges. I do worry about them a little bit because they've got a couple of tight ends that can really block. And so I'm not worried about Michigan necessarily running at the edges any more than I am Michigan running against the interior of Texas. I mean, they're going to try to play hog ball and run the football. That's what they're going to try to do. And then throw one or two over the top. That's the recipe for Michigan to shorten the game in Ann Arbor and come out with a win. You know, if they can hold Texas to 14 to 21 points, that's what they're hoping to do.
And we'll switch over to the other side of the ball here, guys. Woodcrest says, question for the panel. What do you think the chances of Brandon Baker starting at right tackle as a true freshman this year?
0 if Cam Williams is healthy. But Brandon Baker has a bright future at Texas. Did very well in the spring, has made some big strides physically in a short amount of time. That is expected to continue this summer. But Cameron Williams is your starting right tackle. And the question there is, could Cameron Williams be off to the NFL after 1 year? Obviously, the way he plays this season, especially the second half of the season, will be the determining factor there. I don't think, if Michigan game isn't going to tell his future of whether he's at Texas 1 year or not. That would be third career start. Start looking at Oklahoma on this season. If he plays at a really high level, then Cameron Williams could be one and done as a starter. We'll see. I think him and DJ Campbell need the second year. That just kind of goes to that Brandon Baker question. But it's not out of the question with Cam Williams.
Hey, Jerry, what did he come in at? Like 380, 375?
Yeah. I mean, always listed 375. I think he might have been 390 at one point.
Yeah, I've got to be so I talked to someone this weekend that saw Cam Williams. He was out at the camp, by the way.
Yeah.
He and a couple of different football players for the Longhorns also attended the camp just to go out there, see some guys they knew, talk to people, etc. Anthony Hill was out there as well. Cam Williams, according to the guy that look more like 340 or 350 these days. Just totally reshaped his body. And that goes back to what we've been talking about. These linemen, they're not ready to go when they first arrive on campus. 9/10 of them. You'd like to say, oh, well, Kelvin Banks did it. Well, Kelvin Banks did it. That's very extraordinarily rare. Okay.
And Texas had to have it.
Right, exactly. It's extraordinarily rare, especially when you're in a good situation along the offensive line. If you're in a, chaotic situation like Texas was when Kelvin Banks came in, it's not as rare. That's the reality.
And let's give a lifetime Longhorn Kenny Harrison a little shout out and credit on Kelvin Banks too. Kenny Harrison, tremendous offensive coach there at Summer Creek. I know they got smashed in the state championship game, but just look at Kenny Harrison, his resume over the years and what he's done offensively. And I've watched him up close. They did a really good job with Kelvin Banks to be pass pro ready coming out of high school. Pass pro ready. But to Bobby's point, these guys need that They need that time, what we were just talking about, offensive and interior defensive line. And somebody asked, I pulled up that question, do you have to start a lot of guards games in college to get drafted? No. Amarius Mims started 1 year at Georgia, just went in the first round. He played behind other NFL guys. He needed time to develop. Looked amazing when I was back in my ESPN Future 50 days. We had him in the Future 50. Even Blake Brockerman, I was like, who's this guy? I mean, so a multi-year NFL player is like, wow, look at this guy. So Amarius Mims always had it. He just had to put it together. But he only started, 9 games at Georgia, went in the first round. So it can be done because that development for that time in college, and then when that NFL sees they can continue that development and what that guy can become. Somebody just said Jonathan Brooks 1 year, obviously running back. But on the offensive line, you don't have to. I think it helps you, but you don't have to.
And our next question, guys, comes from Brandon Huey. He says, I watched the Javion Cole interview. Great job, guys. But do you think he's the day one starter? I say so.
Let's see, it's him or Gavin Holmes. I think that's who it's going to end up being. And I wouldn't necessarily give the lead to Javion Cole. I think they're going to try to rotate to see what Javion Cole looks like in game situations. Because the thing about Javion Cole is a little bit like Manny Muhammad. He looks good in practice, but the real value is the turnover aspect of Javion Cole. He had 4 picks as a freshman in college and 3 picks last year. Okay. Gavin Holmes is not unlikely to get 3 picks this year. Let's just put it out there. That's not who he is. He runs with guys downfield. Okay. He's trying to become more physical to match up what he's going to need to be, not just in the SEC, but beyond in the NFL if he wants a chance.
Yeah.
Javion Cole is kind of naturally physical, but undersized. Okay. He's not going to, just like Manny Muhammad is kind of naturally physical, even though he's undersized a little. What's going to happen is they got to get Javion Cole on the field and see if he causes turnovers. If he causes turnovers, then he's starter day one. If he doesn't, well, does he have the long speed that Gavin Holmes does to run with those big wide receivers in the SEC? And I don't know the answer. I don't think Texas knows 100% the answer until they see him this summer. They're going to start. The good thing about summer workouts, by the way, that's changed, and we need to reset here, Blake, and tell everybody what's going on. Texas met yesterday as a team for the first time in a month. The kids got a couple weeks off after the end of the semester in May, graduation for a lot of kids at Texas. They went home, got some workouts in. Some stayed in Austin, but they were all back on campus yesterday for their first team meeting. They started workouts today for the summer, and the difference nowadays between years past is actually Texas and all these players get coached up by the coaches during the summer. It used to just have to be the strength and conditioning staff would be with them all summer. Now, Sark gets to be out there, Milwee, Chris Jackson, all the DB coaches, whether it's Jerry Joseph or Blake Gideon, they all get to spend time with those guys. So you can actually see more progress during the summer from those guys. All right, so that happened. Bert Auburn got a scholarship at the team meeting yesterday. Congratulations to the kicker out of the Dallas area, leading scorer in the NCAA a year ago. He got a scholarship. Also, Texas women's rowing won the national championship yesterday over Stanford. Congratulations to those ladies. Texas softball plays tonight at 7 o'clock against Stanford in the national semifinals. Stanford would have to take 2 from Texas for Texas not to move forward into the national championship. Men's baseball team lost yesterday 10-2 in kind of ignominious fashion to Louisiana, Lafayette. I can't even stop saying Lafayette with that. But anyways, they lost to Louisiana now, 10-2. David Pierce seems to be in a situation where he doesn't know what's going to be happening with his future. He was asked about it at the podium post-game. He said, look, I'll be at Texas if they'll have me. So we'll see what that exactly means from Chris Del Conte, most likely this week, one way or the other. Also, Texas offered 15 scholarships on Saturday to new players, 10 of them to class of 2026, 4 of them to class of 2027, and 1 in the class of 2025. And if I forgot anything, I'm sorry, but that's what's happened over the weekend in Austin, Texas.
There's Alfio Randall, part of the 1999 #1 recruiting class. Mike Brown, very talented, 19th offer. I think Texas was his 19th offer. Very talented. 3 receivers offered in that class of 2026 on Saturday by Chris Jackson and Steve Sarkisian. Obviously, 2026 quarterback recruiting. Diabell looks like he's #1 ahead of Troy Huhn coming out of camp. We'll see. I think Diabell will make a decision in June unless that changes. He told me that when I was at American Heritage in mid-May. He's going to be at FSU June 9th, which is, I think, maybe a school to watch there against Texas. Then at Ohio State on the 11th and LSU on the 12th, 13th. So those schools are the ones that he has visits lined up to right now. But I do think Diabell will make a decision in June. That has kind of been his plan all along. I think Troy Huhn will continue on that visit process. Clemson, Auburn, Michigan, Penn State, possible visits there. So we'll see what happens with Diabell's timeline and how that affects timelines of others at quarterback in 26. Nathan Tillman in 2025. Texas offered the safety SMU commit out of Mansfield Timberview. He's got a Baylor visit scheduled in June, so the recruitment is open. We expect Texas to receive an official visit. What date that will be, we'll see when that comes out. So that's it on the recruiting side. Oh, Texas, a lot of Texas targets were out and about around the country last weekend. Georgia, USC, LSU, Ohio State had a lot of visitors in that first weekend. Texas is more the late June, the last 2 weekends. Texas begins their official visit process this weekend, 7th through 9th, 6 official visitors, 44, 45, 46 for the whole month of June. That counts the committed guys. Over 35 uncommitted players or committed elsewhere players are scheduled to officially visit Texas in June. And I think Texas will be 2021 commits, Bobby, by late July, early August.
Before we get to more questions and topics, Bobby, can you tell us about our Monday sponsor?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks to our sponsor, John Donovan, President, Longhorn Wealth Management Group. John's a proud Texas Ex's Life member whose wife and 6 siblings are all also UT grads. That explains why John branded the firm Longhorn Wealth and has dedicated his firm to providing total wealth management for Texas alums, employees, family, and friends. John's a certified financial planner with more than 30 years of experience and wants to offer every OTF member and fan a free 90-minute consultation to explore how Longhorn Wealth can help you and your family maximize your wealth, minimize your taxes, and secure your own financial future and legacy. To schedule your own 90-minute free consultation, simply call the Longhorn Wealth team, 972-707-4900, or schedule an appointment online, www.longhornwealth.net. Hook 'em and go Lady Longhorns tonight in the Women's College World Series semifinals.
Guys, we are less than 1 month away from Texas officially joining the SEC. And it looks like Texas put out this video just moments ago saying DKR looking good. You'll see it here in just a second. But the new SEC logos are on the field, as we talked about last week. But here is a high-definition look of those logos.
Dude, what they can do with drone photography these days is just awesome.
This looks like Barry Switzer back in the day filming practice.
Very cool, though.
Hey, I want to say this. There were some people that had the SEC logos bigger than the Longhorn logo, by the way, in some stuff. And I think it's just hilarious when you see it that way. The Longhorn logo significantly larger than the others. All right, Blake, we have some more questions and comments before we get going here.
Yeah, definitely. Let's get right to them here. Waves Deep wants to know, do you think Arkansas is good enough for us to measure our growth from the last time we played them? Or do you think that team was much better?
I think that Arkansas team was much better, and I think Texas was much, much, much worse. So I think that's a big difference. I mean, Sam Pittman, if he still has a job, will be coaching for his job at that point in time. And obviously Arkansas fans that will be the Super Bowl for them this year, other than the coaching change. So that it's going to be a raucous environment. That probably leads into at best SEC fans comment we had, kind of talk about that a little bit from our experiences at all these places over the years. But look, I think that Arkansas is a program. They're always going to be good on the offensive line under Sam Pittman. Transfers, high school kids, whatnot. They're going to be good. New quarterback, running back transferred out. What do they? Barry Odom was a stud on defense, so they had good defensive players. Look, Arkansas, when Odom was there, was always pretty good on defense or had really good players, considering who they were recruiting against. So I just don't think it's even comparable right now. But, Texas will go into the Hornets' nest there.
Well, I can't believe this has gone that much under the radar. You know who the offense coordinator at Arkansas is, right? It's Bobby Petrino.
Bobby Petrino. Yeah.
I mean, nationally, how that is not a bigger story nationally. I mean, he's returning to the scene of the crime.
It only will be if he wears a neck brace out for the warm-ups in the first
game.
But
that's you know what I'm saying? Like that should have, if Arkansas was more relevant these days, that would have been a huge story. Right? I mean, that would be, that would be like Art Briles returning to Baylor as the offensive coordinator.
Yeah.
I mean, Bobby Petrino was the head coach at Arkansas and actually had him going pretty well. Then he, takes his secretary on a motorcycle ride, and comes away with scarred and tattered.
Does anybody actually believe that's how that happened in a motorcycle wreck?
What do you think, Evan? She got into a cat fight with him or something?
No, I think her dude beat the hell out of him.
Yeah. I think so too.
Look, where's the road rash? I mean, like, you crashed a motor. Come on. I think you just I just think he got knocked around a little bit.
Oh boy, I don't know. Hey, but long and short of that, what I want to say, Jerry, is this: the difference between Texas today and 2020 is just light years. First of all, Texas did not have a decided quarterback then. Arkansas did. Arkansas, to your point, had an edge rusher that absolutely obliterated Texas's young offensive line. Basically, that was the offensive line that Kyle Flood had to totally remaster in a single year after that first 5-7 campaign. I don't know. I felt like Texas was overwhelmed. They were a young team going into it. You called it a hornet's nest. That's fine. I'd call it a pigsty. But the point being, they looked like they belonged in the slop. Texas did in that season. Now it's a different Texas team. It's a different Arkansas team too. That Arkansas team felt like it was building a little bit under Sam Pittman. Now it does not. So role reversal a little bit there, in my opinion.
All right, our next question, and Jerry alluded to it just a minute ago. Horn 7, other than Texas, who do you think has the best fans in the SEC?
So, like, a game day experience or, like, fans? So, like, it's interesting to me, like, Auburn has an underrated home field advantage. I mean, that's an underrated place to play. I think Florida's a little overrated in terms of place to play, Bobby. Tennessee, I went to a game there. I think Muschamp was coaching at Florida. I went to a Tennessee game there. That was pretty good environment, but they were playing Florida. I'll tell you what was a kind of a sleeper environment. Now, it was when Spurrier was coaching at South Carolina, but South Carolina was electric home field crowd and atmosphere. That was actually one that was a little bit hidden. Then you get to the LSUs, you get to the A&Ms and everybody else. I don't know where you sit on it, Bobby, but Alabama changed with Nick Saban, all the facility upgrades, stadium upgrades, obviously.
I really enjoy going to a football game at LSU.
Yeah,
at night, just hanging out. They give their gumbo away to everybody. They give gumbo away and a beer to just about anybody. It doesn't matter what
they give it to A&M fans.
Well, they give it to anybody after about 4:00 in the afternoon. They're just done. They're already well lubricated. Everybody's a friend. I would say LSU would be my first one. I think the one that is the most passionate of all of them are Alabama fans.
Yeah.
They've just been so good for so long, and, decades and eons of excellence and expectation, that they know what to expect. And they're not, we went out there last year. I went out there last year, Jerry, and by and large, they were respectful. Yeah, you had the frat guys out there being frat guys. I mean, that happens in Texas or anywhere else too. But, that's just youthful exuberance, not necessarily them being anything in particular. But the fans at large, I thought, were very respectful, yet very intuitive and having fun. I like Alabama's fans probably the most. I think that LSU, not the most, but they probably got the biggest fan base. And then I think LSU is probably the funnest place to go play, or funnest place to go watch a football game.
Now let's talk about this year's schedule. I don't think there's any doubt that the Texas fans and staff will say, coming out of the A&M game, that was the loudest environment they played in all season. I don't think there's going to be any doubt about that at the end of the year. I think it'll be interesting. Arkansas is going to be a great crowd for Texas to go in and play against there. We're talking SEC, so we're not going to have Michigan in that conversation. But, Bobby, the SEC road games. I mean, look, Georgia's at home, Florida's at home, Kentucky's at home this year, Mississippi State's at home. So here's your away is Arkansas and A&M. All right, so it's not going to be that loud for Texas on the road this year, except for two environments. Vanderbilt, Bobby will be the loudest person in the stands at the Vanderbilt game. And Brent Venables will always be the loudest person in a Texas OU game. So, I mean, what do you have there? It's not that bad of a schedule for as far as the road atmospheres. Now, A&M is going to be rough, because they'll be a better team than Arkansas. And that's 14 years of pent-up energy and hate.
Hopefully they're only loud for a quarter. So, they can set decibel records in the first half.
Kingme mentioned the cowbells at Mississippi State. Very annoying. That's like Stephenville with the freaking shaker things, Blake, for all those years. It's just annoying more than it is like a environment, a great home field environment. It's just annoying.
Okay, we got time for just a couple more questions, guys. And Bobby, this one for you from Longhorns. He says, we need the Hex Rally back. Do you agree?
Yeah, sure. I mean, why not? I mean, I don't know why they took it away. There's probably some kind of politically correct reason to do so, but I'm all about things around Texas A&M. I guess that's why they took it away, to be fair. Texas A&M. Was that a Texas OU? I can't remember. Man, it's been a long time. The thought that I have is just the more the band, the players get involved in pregame atmosphere type stuff, that's really fun, in my opinion. That makes it a lot of fun for college football. So whether that's pregame, I love the fact that Sark started the walk before, or I don't even know if it was Sark that started, but the walk before the game into the stadium, a lot cooler now than it used to be. All around DKR, they've done a tremendous job. Anything that brings more pageantry to the game, I'm about.
I think the cool thing for Texas fans is this life in the SEC gets underway is the road games. Think about going to Ole Miss and kind of walking around and seeing the history of Ole Miss, what you may learn. Learning maybe a little bit more about Archie Manning if you hadn't watched the Book of Mannings. Or seeing his pictures, right? Because, I mean, Arch is probably going to be starting quarterback the first time Texas plays at Ole Miss. Or could be, depending on the schedule. How cool would that be, by the way? So, but you're going to learn, you can get, when you go to Tennessee, you can look around the campus, you can look around the football, the history of Tennessee, Peyton Manning, all these things you're now going to go see in person. The Grove at Ole Miss, if that's what the people are talking about, where you go have a little fun, but just all the history with it, the things you can go learn actually about these schools on these road trips if you get there a day early. If you're like me and actually want to go search those things out, I think it's just going to be a blast. I mean, look, wherever the Swamp, people think about the Swamp now as a stadium, that was when Bobby Bowden and Spurrier were there. Those stadiums were electric when they played each other. And look, when Urban Meyer was there, the Swamp that place can be incredibly loud when they're good, maybe like anybody. But think about the history there. I mean, think about what you're going to see if you haven't been to the University of Florida when a Texas fan goes in 2 years. Oh, by the way, go to Spurrier's Bar and Grill if you get there early. That's a cool place. I went there last year, right before I went to see DeAndre Robinson practice, which was kind of funny now. But Spurrier's Bar and Grill was awesome. Spurrier's there almost every day. He does podcasts there. Think about all the history and all the things you're going to be able to see, even learn, maybe you didn't know, or confirm in your mind with these trips in the future. I'm very excited. What did Alfio say? Alfio must have said something.
Where'd he go?
You can also, in Nashville, you can go downtown. You're not going to necessarily take a walk across campus, but Nashville, you can go downtown. Michigan, I can't wait for the Michigan game this year, Jerry. Ann Arbor's a neat little town, very, university centric. It is a huge bowl stadium. When we're talking about loud, by the way, and as it relates to Michigan is not a loud stadium per se. It is a bowl, so it kind of goes up and out of the stadium. It can be loud. There's 110,000 people in it,
right?
But it's not the on top of you where it's kind of built up like A&M is, where it echoes off the walls, etc. So that's the difference in the loudness too.
All right, guys. Well, that's going to do it for today's episode of Coffee and Football, presented by John Donovan and Longhorn Wealth Management Group. We want to thank them, along with Omaha Steaks, for sponsoring today's show. We've got to thank all of you for tuning in. Thank you for the great questions and the super chats, and for your continuous support. As we said at the beginning, we're now at 49,000 subscribers. We could not do it without you guys. So thank you. Thank you. Be sure to head on over to ontexasfootball.com. Join the discussion with us. Bobby, Jerry, CJ, all posting updates are just all the time, 7 days a week, around the clock over there. You won't miss a thing if you're on ontexasfootball.com. And then if you haven't already, be sure to hit that like and subscribe button, ring the bell so you're notified anytime we post a video or go live. So for Bobby Burton and Jerry Hamilton, I'm Blake Monroe, and we'll see you tomorrow morning.
Hook up, guys.